Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Greg's Sports. This is the CFL DFS video for week number 17. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how this week's video will be structured. We're going over my CFL DFS sheet for week number 17, talking through all of the relevant players, whether or not I consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, a GPP paydown option, and then I'll also be going over whether or not I'll be in line with the field in terms of ownership. Underweight, overweight, slightly underweight, just to give you guys a little bit of kind of where I expect ownership to be and kind of where I would be in my stances in terms of what I expect that expected ownership to be. And then with that being said, I will be listing all the depth charts down in the comment section of this video throughout the week as they do come out, as well as any other major news. Anything else beyond that will be updated on this sheet, which will be available on my Patreon page. Very small monthly donation over there. You get access to my CFL DFS sheets for the month. You get access to my NFL DFS player pools, as well as my NFL snap count spreadsheets. So a really useful tool for all football enjoyers, especially those playing DFS. But without further ado, we'll get right into it. We're going to start off with the Calgary Stampeders. We got Vernon Adams Jr. at quarterback. He's $9,100. I have him listed as a GPP option, probably in line with the field on him. He had been dealing with a back injury that caused him to miss part of their most recent game. His backup, PJ Walker, is on that one-game injury list due to a shoulder injury, so probably going to play Vernon Adams out there as much as they possibly can, unless his back is really bothering him or he suffers some other type of injury, unfortunately. One minor note is that they did sign Logan Bonner back to the practice roster. There is a minor chance that he could be promoted to the active roster, but they're probably going to go into the game with Vernon Adams Jr., Quincy Vaughn, and Josh Love just in general. Then we move down to running back with Dedrick Mills. He's $7,900. I have him listed as a GPP option. Slightly overweight to the field on him. Definitely do like the upside that he could have this week overall, although there are quite a few running backs that I do like just in general. Behind him, Jayshawn Antwi is going to be out due to a head injury, so definitely don't play him. He hasn't been too relevant so far this season anyways, though. And then William Langley's at fullback is also going to be out. And then we move down to the wide receiver unit. So the main three that I'm going to be interested in this week are going to be Eric Brooks, Tevin Jones, and Jalen Philpott. All kind of GPP options, probably going to be in line with the field on all three of them. Eric Brooks is also their primary returner at the same time as well. Then a couple minor notes. Ryan Jones was signed to the practice roster, and Malik Henry was limited practice all week due to that knee injury, but still does remain out. Then moving down to that Stampeders defense, they're $3,600, kind of a paydown option in line with the field if you want to go with them there. You know, they are a pretty decent defense overall. This is a little bit tougher matchup going against the Montreal Alouettes, especially if Davis Alexander does get that start at quarterback. Then we move down to the Montreal Alouettes team. So McLeod Belton-Thompson, he's $8,400. I have him listed as a GPP option if he is named the starter. Probably going to be in line with the field on him. Was limited practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to an elbow injury, but is listed as available for this game. But some news behind him. Davis Alexander, if he plays this week, is $6,500. Cash game option if he's the starter will be very much overweight to the field on him. He has been on that 6-game injury list, but was able to practice in full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to a hamstring injury and technically is listed as available. So if he's playing, if he's out there, cash game option, pretty easy this week overall at that minimum price tag at quarterback. Moving down to the running back position, looks mainly like Stevie Scott once again this week. He's at $6,000. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Then we move down to the wide receivers, mainly just getting to Tyson Philpott and Tyler Snead at $9,700 and $9,100 respectively. GPP options for both, in line with the field with both. If Davis Alexander gets the start, you could look at Austin Mack and Charleston Rambo at the same time as well. And then we got news that Kasim Ferdinand and Hakeem Harris were both moved over to the practice roster, so they will not be active for this week's game. Then moving down to that Alouettes defense, they're $4,400. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on them. If Vernon Adams Jr. struggles due to that back injury, there could be some upside with their defense overall. If he's all of a sudden unable to go, not listed as the starter on the depth chart, or suffers another injury in the game, there definitely could be a lot of upside at the same time as well. Then we move down to the Toronto Argonauts. Nick Arbuckle is likely to be the starter for this game. He's at $11,000. GPP option if he starts. I am slightly underweight to the field with him since he will be playing with an injury. Wasn't able to practice on Monday. Was limited practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to that calf injury that caused him to miss last week. But he is technically listed as available for the Week 17 matchup. Then we're not interested in that running back position. Once again, Toronto really hasn't ran the ball too effectively, and these guys most weeks have not been good for DFS purposes. So we're going to move down the wide receiver with Kevin Meidel, Jake Herzl, Makai Polk as the main three. I have them all listed as GPP options in line with the field on all three of them. If you want to make a major stand on one of them, you can definitely do that. And then if you wanted to go out and play like DeJuan Brissett or David Unger III as kind of like a leverage play, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. In terms of the Toronto Argonauts defense, they're going against the BC Lions this week. They're $4,200. I don't like the matchup overall, so I will be underweight to the field on them. I will not be getting to them personally myself this week overall. So we're going to move down to that BC Lions team. Nathan Rourke at quarterback, $12,000. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Definitely do like the upside he can have on any given week. However, the price tag is the highest priced quarterback on the slate, and by a pretty good margin at this point in time. At running back, it looks like James Butler should be back this week. He was limited practice all week due to the thigh injury, but technically is listed as available. So I have both him and Xander Horvath listed as GPP options if they were to get the start. Probably going to be in line with the field on both of them. Horvath, he looked pretty good last week, but he is not the cheap price tag that he was last week, unfortunately, if he does ultimately end up getting the start. But if James Butler's good to go, he's probably going to move back over to the practice roster anyways. Then we move down to wide receiver. Javon Catoy is out once again this week due to an ankle injury. So I'm mainly looking at Keon Hatcher and Justin McInnis once again as GPP options. Probably going to be in line with the field on both of them. If you want to go out and take a shot on Stanley Berryhill or Aiden Ebenhart, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. And then one minor note in terms of that wide receiver room, they did sign Isaiah Winstead to the practice roster. He was most recently playing down in the UFL with, I believe, the Arlington Renegades. Then we move down to BC Lions defense. They're $3,800. Initially, I had them listed as a potential cash game option, but now it looks like Nick Arbuckle should be back, so they're probably more like a GPP option. Probably going to be slightly overweight to the field on them once again this week. And then we move down to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, $10,500. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Do like the upside that he could have on any given slate. It's been a couple weeks since he's really had that big game, so maybe people are a little bit more down on him, so he could be an interesting leverage play as that price tag comes down at the same time as well. Greg Bell, $9,200 at running back. A GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Probably going to get a decent amount of ownership since he's been playing really well as of late. And then in terms of the wide receivers, the same three that we pretty much seen for the last couple of weeks, Kenny Lawler, Keandre Smith, and Tim White, all listed as GPP options. Going to be in line with the field or ever so slightly overweight to the field on all three of them this week, just in general. Then we move down to Tiger Cats defense. They're $4,500 GPP option, and I'm probably going to be slightly underweight to the field on them. It's just a really expensive price tag. It looks like Zach Collaros should be back at quarterback for the Blue Bombers. There is upside to be had there, but I just don't love the price tag overall this week. Then we move down to that Blue Bombers team. Zach Collaros at quarterback, $9,700. I have him listed as a GPP option if he is listed as the starter. Probably going to be in line with the field. Maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field. But he was able to practice in full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to head injury. That did keep him out of their most recent game. Chris Streveler threw the ball 8 times in the game, so we're going to hope that Zach Collaros is back at quarterback for the passing game just in general, but that kind of remains to be seen at this point in time. We'll get that final injury report as we do head into the slate, which will be one of the major news points for this week overall. Then we move down to running back with Brady Oliveira. He's all the way down to $8,500, so I do have him listed as a cash game play for this week. Slightly overweight to the field on him, and this is a running back that's been up over $10,000 for most of the season and most of last season, so we're definitely going to take that dip in price tag, and even if it is Chris Streveler out there at quarterback, they're still going to be running the ball quite a bit at that point in time. Moving down to the wide receivers, mainly interested in Nick Naminsky and Ontario Wilson. So Nick Naminsky, $9,000. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Ontario Wilson, if Zach Collaros is the quarterback, I do have listed as a cash game option at $5,000. Slightly overweight to the field on him. And then a couple of injury notes at the wide receiver position. Jarrett Stearns was able to practice in full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to his shoulder injury, so he could be back this week. If he ultimately ends up playing, he's probably a GPP option at the same time as well. And then Carrick Weefall was not able to practice on Tuesday or Wednesday due to head injury. Probably safe to assume that that is a concussion that he's dealing with, and he'll most likely be out for this week's matchup. And then we move down to Blue Bombers defense. They're $3,500. I have them listed as a paydown option. Probably going to be in line with the field on them. Not too much of a stand to be made there, but kind of a cheap punt play defense just in general. Then we move down to the Roughriders. We got Trevor Harris at quarterback. He's $8,800. Really good price tag overall. I have him listed as a potential cash game play. Obviously, if Davis Alexander gets the start, that would be my primary cash game play. But if it's McCoy Bethel-Thompson getting the start for the Alouettes, then my cash game play at quarterback would be Trevor Harris. I definitely do like him quite a bit. Slightly overweights the field on him, and he is potentially getting a lot of wide receiving weapons back this week just in general. And then at running back, we got A.J. Allett, $8,700 GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him. He's kind of that solid, safe running back week to week, so definitely do like him and his potential upside. Then we did get some news at running back as Thomas Bertrand Hutton was able to practice in full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to his leg injury that's kept him out for quite a while now. Still technically on that 6-game injury list, but we could potentially see him return for this game. And then we move down to wide receivers. Since we're already talking about injuries, we're going to talk about a couple guys that were able to practice in full this week. And that is going to be Samuel MLS, Keon Schaefer-Baker, and then obviously Sean Bain Jr., who's been able to practice in full for quite a while, but has yet to make his season debut. So potentially getting some weapons back at that wide receiver position. And then Dre McCray, their essentially backup kick returner, was limited in practice once again Tuesday and Wednesday due to the head injury, so safe to assume that he's probably going to be out once again this week. So in terms of the wide receivers, we'll see who ultimately ends up playing for this team. That could be another part of the major news this week. Maybe they give these guys an extra week before they make their return, but there is the potential for them to be back this week. So I'm probably not getting to too many wide receivers for the Roughriders unless we get news that MLS and Schaefer-Baker are both out once again this week. But in that case, we'd be looking at Keyshawn Johnson, Dante Myers, and Tommy Neal. All as kind of GPP options, probably going to be in line with the field on all three of them if that's the case. Otherwise, we'll ultimately end up being slightly underweight to the field on them. In terms of their Roughriders defense, they're at $3,700, kind of a paydown option. Probably going to be in line with the field on them. Definitely a good punt play defense this week once again. And then we move down to the Edmonton Elks. We got Cody Fajardo at quarterback. He's at $8,900. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. Not too much to say about him. Kind of that solid, steady, safe guy week to week. Although he doesn't quite give you the upside that some of the other quarterbacks do have in their respective matchups. And Trevor Harris being $100 cheaper just kind of really hurts him this week overall. So maybe we ultimately end up slightly underweight, especially if Davis Alexander gets the start at quarterback. And then a running back, if you want to run out Javon Leake as kind of an offensive weapon plus returner, you can definitely do that at $5,700. And then Justin Rankin, he's at $10,400. He is the most expensive running back on the slate. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field, maybe ever so slightly underweight to the field. He is a big play waiting to happen, but does have some volatility week to week. And at the most expensive running back on the slate price tag, that makes me get a little bit less of him just in general. Then we move down to wide receiver. So I have Curly Gittens Jr. and Keon Julian Grant, both as GPP options, probably going to be in line with the field on both of them this week. And then Benjamin Victor is kind of a paydown option at $3,500, probably going to be in line with the field on him at the same time as well. And then we did have one minor note that TJ Luther was signed to the team this week. Technically, on the CFL transactions page, it says he was signed to the active roster. I think it's more likely than not that he was signed to the practice roster, but we'll get a final confirmation on that when we do see this Edmonton Elks depth chart for this week overall. Then last but not least, we have that Elks defense. They're $4,300. Underweight to the field on them this week. It's too expensive for their defense. And with the Roughriders potentially getting more reinforcements, especially at that wide receiver position, makes it a less than favorable matchup for this Edmonton Elks team. Then last but not least, we have the one lone team on the bye this week, and that's going to be the Ottawa Redblacks. But with that being said, this is my CFL DFS sheet for week number 17. As always, if you have any questions related to CFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again, I'll be posting all the depth charts as they do come out throughout the week down in the comment section below, as well as any other major news, which will most likely be the update on Zach Collaros as well as those Rough Rider wide receivers, whether or not they're going to be active for this week overall. And then anything else beyond that will be updated on this CFL DFS sheet, which will be posted up on my Patreon page. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. It's the last week of the regular season for MLB, so that will be ending very, very shortly. Friday will be the last MLB DFS core pick video. And then I do have my CFL DFS videos coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. And then I will have my NFL DFS core pick video coming out once a week. and that will either be coming out on Friday or Saturday. Might vary a little bit week to week, but definitely be on the lookout for that. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's 100% match up to $100, and then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Greg Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for Week 17.